Thanks for listening to the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry, here to help educate, motivate, and put you on the right path to take control of your health through weekly discussions on topics in the medical field, public health arena, and in your community. And now your host, Dr. Barry.
And welcome everybody to another episode of the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry. I'm your host, Dr. Barry Pierre, your favorite board-certified internist, founder of drbarrypierre.com, as well as the host of the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry, the #1 podcast for patient advocacy and helping you empower yourself for better health. First of all, thank you everyone for helping me cross the century mark with episode 101 today. We are talking about celebrating the National Physicians Week, which, depending on when you listen to this, is going on as we speak. It's actually, the dates are the 25th of March to the 31st, and it actually started out as a day, but it got extended to a week, so we're going to talk a lot about that. I'm going to highlight some of the physicians that I look up to and attribute to helping me get to where I'm at today. If you have not had a chance, go ahead and make sure you subscribe to the episode and rate and review. We love those ratings. It helps us get to the top of the charts of wherever the Apple charts, the Google charts, whoever charts it is. It helps us get up there. So if you not had a chance, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Tell a friend to subscribe to the podcast. Leave us a 5-star review, and I'll give you a shout out during our introduction. So without further ado, let's get ready for another episode of the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry. This episode is brought to you by the Lunch and Learn community store, where we are living out the motto, empower yourself for better health. In the Lunch and Learn community store, you can get your favorite t-shirts, ebooks, as well as other related products by Dr. Barry. Head over to shop.drpiersblog.com and get a chance to get 10% off your first purchase by using the coupon code EMPOWER10. Again, shop.drpiersblog.com. Live out the motto, empower yourself for better health. All right, everybody. So again, I'm going to be honest. When I was thinking about, what episode we're going to be talking about this week, it hit me that this was National Physicians Week. And as the date of recording, the date of this release, no one has given me that shout out yet, right? So I figure, the Lunch and Learn community needs to know that this is National Physicians Week, and what better person to tell it than your favorite physician, right? So, but all jokes aside, I want to talk about National Physicians Week, right? We're going to give a little history, and I want to kind of play off an article that I read earlier this week where they actually mentioned it was in the DO, Orthopedic magazine, and they actually mentioned, 10 physicians that they highlighted in their, historical course. And I'm not gonna do 10. I'm gonna do 5. I could do 10. I'm gonna only do 5. And these 5 physicians, again, there are no specific order as far as ranking, but there are 5 physicians who I feel have been very influential and beneficial to my career and everything that I've done thus far. So, first of all, National Physicians Week actually started as National Physicians Day, right? This has been a holiday that's been going on as far back as the 1930s. But it wasn't until the 1990s where it officially became a national holiday. And nice little fun fact, the initial day was March 30th. And the reason why March 30th was the day chosen was that it was also the anniversary of the day that anesthesia was first used on the patient, right? So they figured we're going to have a holiday that looks to commemorate physicians in a loving way and a caring way, so why not let it coincide with the first time we actually sedated somebody before we had to do surgery, right? So I thought that was pretty neat. So the founder of the day, or the creator per se, is Dr. Eudora Brown Allman. She is actually a physician's wife who founded and wanted to kind of give some praise to her husband and colleagues on all of the amazing work that they were doing. So this was actually a physician's wife that said, you know what, I think you guys need your own day, which I'm 100% in agreement with, to kind of like shout out the rooftops how amazing you are, right? So fast forward to 2015, Dr. Kimberly Jackson, who founded the organization Physicians Working Together, wanted again to unite all of the physicians and specialties at different levels, different training, and felt that, you know what, I don't think a day is enough, right? And honestly, I'll be honest, I don't think a day is enough either, right? So she actually set out to make it an official full-blown week that the love and celebration of the physician was going to come into pass. And it came into fruition, honestly, that year, right? So she founded an organization, Physicians Working Together, in 2015, and she was able to get the holiday, certified and, made official in 2015 as well, right? So she definitely a hard worker, and we'll definitely have a link to their website in the show notes. So I kind of alluded to earlier when I was, doing my Googling, right, and I was talking about National Physician Week, I realized that in the DO, the Osteopathic magazine, for those who don't know, I am an osteopathic physician. In the DO, they actually did an article where they highlighted 10 physicians who they felt had made a difference in the osteopathic world over this time, right? And again, I'll definitely link to that article so you can kind of see who were some of the physicians. One of the most notable ones, and if you're an osteopathic physician, she usually gets brought up, is Dr. Ross, who is Tracy Ross's aunt. So I'm going to do my top 5. And again, these are in no specific order from a ranking standpoint, but their influence and level of importance on everything I've done up until this point that you listen to me on this podcast can't really be understated, right? And a lot of times, you've seen that phrase before, right? Give a person their roses while they're still, alive and able to smell them, right? So I definitely want to, give these people a shout out just to say, hey, thank you for all that you've done and, making me the best physician that I can be. And, happy, National Physicians Week to you, right? So I think the first person I want to give a shout out to, right, and those who know the background story, is going to be Dr. Gaston. Dr. Pierre Gaston is my first encounter with a Black physician, and he was my pediatrician, and he was the first person that I said, you know what, like, I want to be a doctor, and I want to be a doctor like Dr. Gaston. He was actually our community physician, took care of a lot of my friends and family members. And just that level of importance that he had in our community was such an inspiring, feat for me to see that I didn't know how I was going to be a physician. I just knew that I wanted to be a physician like Dr. Gaston. So I want to make sure I give Dr. Gaston his props. And it's funny, because I stay pretty close to where I grew up, and I go by his office all the time. I don't go inside because I didn't, a crazy person, like, what is this, like, grown-ass kid, like, in my office saying, I inspired him to be a doctor. I didn't want to do that, right? I may send him a letter or something, but, his office is still where it was many, many years ago. So, again, Dr. Gaston Pierre is definitely one of the first mentors that I had who really helped inspire me to become a physician and, help me see that being a physician wasn't something out of the ordinary, especially because I didn't have any family members who were physicians or who were even in the health field, right? So that's Dr. Gaston. Number 2, Dr. Blavo. This is Dr. Cyril Blavo. He is a pediatrician. He was a professor at Nova, and he was a dean of public health. And for those who have heard me before, my credentials include DO, but it also includes MPH, a Master's in Public Health, with an emphasis in program evaluation. And I remember when I first started medical school and the opportunity was given to us to complete a Master's in Public Health while we were working on a medical degree and to finish at the same time, I kind of laughed at it, right? I didn't really think it was me. I couldn't understand the importance of it. And as a public health trained official now, I like to call myself, right? I'm not in the field, but I'm still there. One of the things that he taught me, Dr. Blavo, was that medicine and public health was so intertwined, and I would get to the point where my level of success would rely more on the public health side versus the independent, just the medicine side. And again, I kind of alluded to with Dr. Gaston, like I always knew I wanted to be a community physician when it was all said and done. And public health, the way I was able to kind of tie that field of interest was that I wasn't just taking care of the one person, right? The one person who happened to be in front of me. I was taking care of the community. And I was asking questions like, why is this community affected? Why is this community affected with these certain disorders and unable to take these certain medications, right? So your mind definitely opened up, right? So, and that's what he taught me, right? He said, you know what, as a public health trained physician, you will care more for your patients, and you will care for their families, and you will care for their neighbors, and you will care for their whole community, right? And just that drive and emphasis that I would see from him when he would talk about public health, and you could see the happiness and the joy in his eyes really kind of sealed the deal and said, "Yo, you know what? I got to be a public health guy. I'm gonna get that degree, right?" So he's the reason why today I feel like I'm probably more well-rounded than most other physicians, right? Because I was trained to think that way. And it's funny, when I work with my medical residents, one of the things we do is journal reviews. Now, in the medicine world, journal reviews pretty much are something that we do on a weekly basis. It's something that, we kind of read just to, kind of skim over and then kind of, keep it moving, right? But as a public health official, we don't read journals the same, right? And my public health people who are listening, I'm pretty sure just kind of nodding their head, right? When we look at a journal, we're looking to see, why is this a terrible journal, right? Like, you have to prove your point to me versus me reading it and just accepting it at face value. So, those are some of the subtle differences associated with my public health degree and medical degree. And also another thing, when we talk about mission trips, right? A lot of people like mission trips. And they go into an impoverished community for a week, for 2 weeks, for a month, but then they leave, because that's the medicine angle, right? You just leave when your job is done. But the public health world is like, no. Yes, I'm going to come here for that month, and I'm going to create systems that make it so that I don't have to come here till next year, and you're still going to be doing the same thing. So that's why I love the public health aspect of knowledge and training. And honestly, I think it's part of the reason why I do the podcasting and the blog and everything else, because I knew that, I can give great advice to the one patient who happened to be standing in front of me during their appointment. What about all these other people here who need my advice, right? And I can't do that just from this one spot, right? So again, that's why I kind of branched out and did everything that I do. So again, shout out to Dr. Blavo, my number 2. Again, not a ranking. He's just the second person that we talked about. Number 3, Dr. Robert Hasty. For those who are alumni of Nova Southeastern University, Dr. Hasty is easily, for one, I can tell you he's the reason why I became an internist, right? He's the reason why I'm in academic medicine. He's the reason why I feel confident in being in academic medicine. Again, if you remember the backstory, again, if you didn't, you might be, if you're just catching, this is your first episode, again, thank you. But if it's just your first episode, you just kind of forget. When I became a program director at the age of 33, and which is, kind of unheard of, right? Like, it's definitely not common. And when the opportunity was given to me, again, it was like I had a little imposter syndrome, right? I was like, do they really want me? Like, am I up for the job? And he was one of the first people that I talked to and said, hey, they're offering me this position. What do you think? And he said, you're gonna be great at it. You're gonna kill it. And you best believe I killed it, and I did great at it, right? So again, Dr. Robert Hasty, who was such an influence in me going into internal medicine and me doing academic medicine, I definitely have to make sure you're one of my top 5. So again, shout out to Dr. Robert Hasty, who is actually now a dean of a college of medicine, right? So again, when I knew him, just about 9-10 years ago, he was my, attending professor. I think he was teaching radiology in another course. So he was my professor. But fast forward, and I'm a program director, and he's a dean of a college, right? So I can only be so lucky, right? I don't think they're gonna make me dean anytime soon, but I definitely love his passion for medicine, his love for internal medicine, his love to want to learn and get to know how to get better, right? Was something that was so evident with him, right? So Dr. Robert Hasty is definitely in my top 5 for physicians that I want to give a shout out to this week. Number 4, Dr. Stephen Canner. Dr. Canner was my attending as a resident at West Palm Hospital or Palm Beach County, JFK North. I'm sorry, they changed the name 3 times, right? So for a side note, when I started residency, the name was Columbia Hospital. In the middle of residency, it changed to West Palm Hospital. And recently, a few years ago, they changed to the JFK North Campus, right? So same place, they just a lot of different name changes. So Dr. Canner was one of my medicine physicians there. And the beauty and the wisdom that I got from Dr. Canner, first of all, let me tell you, he was a mean son of a gun, right? He was very meticulous on how he wanted to do things. And if he didn't do things correctly, you would definitely hear about it, right? So he was one of those tough attendings, but I love tough attendings. I've always have, because those are the ones who actually want to take time to learn and listen and teach. So, you have to deal with the good and the bad, right? You have to deal with the fact that if you make a mistake, you're going to hear about it. But understand if you do a good job, you're also going to hear about it as well. And one thing I tell my residents, if I can only pull back one, wisdom and knowledge nugget from Dr. Canner, it would be to ask the question why. And as an internist, it is something that I see even my residents, don't do it as often as they should, right? A lot of times we get bogged down to the computer work and what the numbers say, that we don't really ask why or even answer the question why something is happening, right? And that was his big thing, right? Why are you doing this? Why do we need to do that? Why is this? It was the why, right? He told me that the biggest and most difficult PIM question was why. If you ask the why, if you know the why, then you don't have to memorize everything, right? So definitely Dr. Stephen Canner was a huge influence in how I train, how I learn, and the value gold mine that he was during my years at residency was definitely something that could be underappreciated while you're doing it, because that's how it usually is the case. I know my residents probably hate me now, but they're going to love me once they graduate, because, that's just what happens. But all jokes aside, when you have, a person like Dr. Canner, educating you and being able to go that extra mile to help you learn, he's someone that you take heed of, and that's what I did, right? So again, Dr. Canner is definitely one of my top 5 physicians in my short. And again, I've only been physician since officially when I started residency in 2011, right? So about 8 years at resident, about 5 years or so as an attending. So it hasn't been long, but his teachings is definitely something that I still carry to this day. And last but not least, Dr. Watson Ducatel. Dr. Watson Ducatel he has a few titles that are important to me. Number 1, he is the godfather of one of my children. Number 2, he is my fraternity brother. A shout out to Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated. Number 3, he is my classmate. And I remember this day vividly when first day I got to Nova, and of course Nova's class was about 200, so it's about 200 people just kind of wandering around orientation. Nobody knows anybody pretty much. And here comes this guy walking, makes a beeline towards me, hey, I'm Watson Ducatel, and we should stick together, right? That was that was my first encounter. He probably doesn't remember, but that was my first encounter with him. And right then I said, all right, yeah, this is a guy I'm gonna have to keep an eye on, right? So definitely I want to shout out Dr. Watson Ducatel, who is also, again, we kind of follow the same trajectory. We're both godparents to each other's children. We both went to Nova Southeastern University. We both are members of our fraternity. We both went into internal medicine. Again, shout out to Dr. Hasey because he definitely influenced that for both of us as well. And he right now has a manage a clinic with his wife, who's a dentist. He does, direct primary care, and she does her dentistry work, right? So they're outpatient physicians, right? So I definitely want to give a shout out to Dr. Watson Ducatel because, again, going through those tough years as a medical student, you're just trying to survive and get to the next test. He was definitely someone that I leaned on for assistance, for support, to get me to that next test, right? So again, shout out to Dr. Watson Ducatel as a mentor, as a friend, and as a business person who I definitely like to admire from that standpoint there. I know I said 5, right? But I gotta be honest, right? Like, the reason why you're listening to me on this podcast today, right, is because of this special gentleman right here who, took the mental roadblock that was in front of me and said, I just need you to create and I just need you to do stuff, right? Dr. Dreon Birch is OB-GYN physician. He is my mentor. He's my business coach. All of the above, right? And I remember him as an osteopathic physician. He was a part of NOMA, National Osteopathic Medical Association, and I just remember his name. And then when I came across his name years later, he remembered me right off the bat. So it was just one of those things that this guy's memory is great, so he's definitely someone I need to keep an eye on. And he started as Medical Moguls, and then I became a medical mogul, and really the rest is history, right? Again, the reason why you're listening to me, the reason why we're on episode 101, right, is because he told me, I can do it. And as a physician, a lot of times we get told what we don't do, right? And that's what I love about this National Physicians Week, because it's really us looking back and saying, you know what, I do a lot of good, right? Even though the TV may not make it seem that way, I actually do a lot of good for my community. And I'm going to keep it that way, and I'm going to keep the compassion, keep the love, and with things like suicide, in physicians, on the rise, with burnout due to moral injury on the rise. Sometimes you need some sliver of importance to say, okay, this is why I do what I do. This is why I get up at 6 a.m. To see these patients and don't leave till 6 p.m., right? So again, that's why I love about National Physicians Week, because it helps us reflect on the inside and say, you know what, we actually are doing a good job despite what we may think. And so that's it, right? So I know I said top 5, but I went top 6, right? Because I couldn't finish the podcast and not mention my coach, Dr. Dreon Birch, as one of the most influential physicians in my short career path, right? So again, for everyone, if you have not had a chance, and you have some doctor friends, some medical student friends, some resident friends, send them a little shout out, say, hey, happy National Physicians Week, right? Give them that encouragement that they need. Again, it's Wednesday. It's going to be Wednesday by the time you guys hear this. I haven't heard it yet, but I expect to hear it by the weekend, right? And I'm calling some people out who listen to the podcast. I expect to get that text message or that Facebook post, that Instagram post to say, hey, happy National Physicians Week. To do, again, I'm going to see you guys next week. Like always, if you've not had a chance, go ahead, subscribe to the podcast, leave 5-star reviews for the podcast, and then tell one more friend to go ahead and come join the Lunch Learn community on my website, drbarrypierre.com/join. You guys have a great and beautiful day. Bye. Thank you for getting to the end of the show. I am your host, Dr. Barry Pierre, host of the Lunch Learn with Dr. Barry, and this is another amazing episode that we like to bring to you week after week on betterment of empowering yourself for better health today. If you have not had a chance, please go ahead and subscribe to the show. If this is your first time listening, if you already listen and you've already subscribed, make sure to leave me a 5-star review because your support is absolutely important in keeping the show moving as it is. And if you have not had a chance and you want to check out today's show notes, always head over to lunchlearnpod.com. That is lunchlearnpod, all in one word.com, and you can get the access to my show notes for every single episode, but especially the one you just listened to. And I'm going to see you guys next week. You guys be blessed. Bye.